Hello, everybody. My name is VanBradley, and because the internet works best in binaries, we are going to deep dive into the best and worst things that happened in the Civilization 7 Tecumseh and Shawnee livestream. I've got the stream VOD opened up. I am ready to click around, and the first best thing that happened was undeniably our two Shawnee guests, Chief Barnes and Carl Meyer. They were just so excellent at this kind of live stream. They were very comfortable behind the camera, or in front of the camera, I suppose. They were very captivating. For all 50 minutes, they were telling us so many anecdotes of stories about the collaborative process they went through with Firaxis in creating the Shawnee civilization and the leader Tecumseh, and I enjoyed every second of it. It was great to hear what was important to them when it came to their representation and how detailed this process was. It included people flying back and forth and loads of Zoom calls. We get so many points in this live stream too, where you can go from concept art to the real version of the thing that we're getting. There are parts here as well. Man, I am so pro at clicking around. There are parts here as well where they articulate and kind of tell us a story of how things like the music were created for the Shawnee civilization, and I just really enjoyed all of that. It also turns out our two friends were gamers who had played Civilization before, so they had a really easy way to translate what was important to them in a way I could understand it as someone who knows very little about the Shawnee, but knows a lot about Civilization. I found them to be a great conduit between those two worlds, and I felt really invested in everything they had to say. It seemed like, from what I could tell in the live stream, that this was a very, very fun and creatively positive collaborative process that happened between Firaxis and the Shawnee people when it came to creating Tecumseh and the Shawnee civilization. And I think our two Shawnee guests did such a good job of kind of bringing that to life for me in the live stream, and I really appreciated their whole 50-minute appearance. Before we get into gameplay, I want to go over my first worst thing, and I just want you to take a look at everyone who's here. All right, we got our host. We got our historian. We got our creative director, as always, Ed Beach. Lovely to have him around. We got our two guests, which we just talked about, Chief Barnes, Carl Meyer. And while we love the Carl that we got, and I really loved Carl's appearance, can we just take a moment to mourn that our Carl Berrien is not on this live stream? It honestly felt so weird. Like, I was the first 5 minutes of this live stream, I was like, where's Carl? Where's he coming to hang out? Later on, they switch out and they bring the art director in. Let's see if I can find it there. They switch out the historian for the art director, which is a very inspired choice as we got into the more artistic parts of the live stream. But the entire time, I really just missed Carl. The next stream, it's about the exploration era, or so we've been told. Let's explore a way to get Carl back into the live stream for the next one. He feels like a real conduit between our world as Civ fans and the Civilization 7 kind of devs kind of bringing their game to life for us, and I just missed Carl's vibe. We are into Civ 7 gameplay now, and the next best thing was everything that happened with this screen that you're looking at right now. This was not new information for us. This process of an age transition was detailed to us in the last live stream, in a dev blog, etc. Basically, as you go through the first era, you will collect points for meeting milestones or challenges or whatever. You got economic, military, culture, science, and kind of wild card that you can spend on anything. Because this game was starting in the middle, it was starting in an age transition, nothing had been played. All of the available points are wildcard points, but you'll have a vast array of points to spend. He was spending them on the left here. You got your little points shop, your kiosk. You can go and spend your points on cities, towns, etc., whatever, a whole bunch of different boosts. As he was doing this, I already got so excited for the gameplay loop in my head. If you're familiar with Civ 6, you have these gameplay loops that you get really pumped for. You settle a start, you get a relic and a goodie hut, you all of a sudden have enough faith to make use of a Monumentality Golden Age, so you're doing A, B, and C thing, you know you're going to get a Monumentality Golden Age, and if you get that, you can turn that into the next thing, etc. This just gave me that entire vibe, where it's like, I know what I'm going to be able to buy in the little shop here with the points, and I know I need 14 science points and 6 culture points to buy everything I want to buy, so I'm going to do this milestone and that milestone to get those points to buy that thing, and you can already see the gameplay loop happening in your head. And this screen, while not remarkable, and he was just kind of spending points on things you need when you're starting a game midway through, so it wasn't even like what he was showing me was particularly fascinating. I really enjoyed how satisfying this process was in my head, and I'm looking really forward to trying it out. Alternatively, and very briefly, another dub in this kind of section here is the process by which games are started midway through. I am not somebody who's started a single Civ 6 game midway through other than to test things out for the Civ Give, but it is a mess. If you start in the information area, you got settlers and infantry units, and you're starting from scratch, but not really, and it's just weird. It's a mess. This seems much more functional, much more clean, a much better system for starting games midway through. So if you and your friends, you're hopping down, you only got a couple hours hours. You're going to hop into a game of Civ and you're going to start like in the second or third era. I'm really glad they cleaned this process up for people who enjoy playing the game that way. Now, there was not a lot of gameplay in this video here, in this live stream, which is great. I didn't need gameplay. I loved learning about Tecumseh and the Shawnee, and that was the whole purpose of this live stream, so I'm not mad about it. However, it does make it hard to do a best and worst list if there wasn't a ton of gameplay or not a lot of new stuff. However, I do want to nitpick something. This is my next worst thing. I don't know if it's me. It might be you. I don't know if it's just something that's going to bother me. I think these resource icons look entirely out of place with the rest of the art that's happening in Civ 7. We're going to talk about how this looks in my next best thing, because I think this whole stream looked sensational with the kind of really glaring exception of these resource icons. I feel like they're just made for a completely different thing that's happening. If we come out to a scene like this and we just take a look at everything else, all of these farms, the Forbidden City, the city walls, everything just looks so good. And then you just got this horse. It's just a blue screen horse. And the horse isn't even like a nice horse. It's like a doodle horse. And it's like the fidelity of the horse is less than the actual horses on the tile. Like here, I don't know what is this? Like this is clearly fish. Is this like preserves? It looks like there's jam in my ocean. I don't really understand why the resource icons look the way they do. Now, I want to say this is a caveat. I love the art style of Civ 6 more than I like the art style of Civ 5. This is a much more Civ 5 art style. However, I never liked the resource icons in Civ 5. I think they actively look bad in that game as well. And so it's possible that I just have a resource icon thing that I need to get over. But I just wanted to call it out. If we're picking bests and we're picking worsts, the resource icon stuck out to me as something I didn't really enjoy. The next best thing, though, and I've already touched on it, my bad, is just how good this game looks. Now, I don't know what's happening here. I don't know if I've just gotten more used to the gameplay style. I don't know if because we're spawning into a game already in progress and we are putting down completely built cities kind of from scratch, or if this is just a different build of the game, a newer build of the game with like better fidelity in the graphics. I think this game looks a lot better than it did the last time we saw it. The Fog of War still has some issues. You can see some of the shadows here. There's a little bit of clipping in another sequence that I don't really want to find right now, but the Fog of War just looks a lot better than it did last time, or at least my brain is perceiving it looking a lot better as it did last time. All of the districts, all of the buildings, the map doesn't look that much better, but I like the way it looked last time. Just everything looks so much more crisp and just incredible. When we zoom in here, I'm only at 1080p at the moment just so I can click around a little bit faster, but every single building, every single animation, every single texture just has so much creative depth. It looks like it blends in really well. It looks like it's all of one piece, which is very hard for a game like Civ to do when you're kind of able to build and customize your empire as you go. I cannot say enough good things about how the artwork looks in this live stream. It's little things as well. I don't know if it's just me again. The UI looks a little cleaner. I still don't love it. And look, I'm on PC, so I just know a week in I'll just be able to download a UI mod and get better UI anyway. But all of these buttons up here look fantastic. There's a lot of graphical fidelity to them. The colors blend seamlessly. There's really cool designs. This next turn button down here is incredible. Like just the textures and the depths and the way they use the opacity and the color changing. It's just really well done. These portraits kind of look the same, but I feel like they're a little sharper. There's a little more contrast to them. I'm enjoying how they look a little more. So I'm not sure what this is a combination of, if it's me just getting more used to it or if it's actually better in this live stream. However, I would like to point out the worst looking thing on this screen right now is this horse. This freaking blue horse. Why does it look like this when everything else looks so exceptional? Look at this horse. This horse looks great. Just make that horse this horse. I also want to shout out this screenshot because there's a lot of cool things here that are kind of specific to Shawnee. This kind of campfire over, it's not a campfire, that's not the right word, but this fire over here, or this council fire, I think they called it, looks incredible. The serpent mounds here are just sensational. Everything here looks great, except this horse over here, which looks terrible. In the interest of fairness, though, if there's one resource icon I do like, it's this one right here. I don't know what resource this is. I didn't know teapots could be a resource or whatever this is trying to tell me this is, but I really love this resource icon. Everything else I'm not a fan of. The silk is okay. The irons, it's okay. The pigs also look weird. I just don't know what's going on here, but the teapot one looks very good. I really don't have a lot of worst for this live stream. I just broadly had a really good time and just enjoyed every second of it. However, what I will say is there was a few kind of awkward moments in the production of the live stream. There were some points at the beginning where the host just looked a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit unsure of how the conversation was meant to be directed. There were some points as clips were being transitioned that there was awkward pauses on either end that seemed a little bit weird. There was clearly points where the producer, you can see the earpiece here, where the producer was kind of in the ear of the host, kind of correcting things or adding or subtracting things as the host was like mid sentence, which created some awkward moments where the host would be like, we're doing this now, and then be like, oh, just kidding, we're doing this now, or like, oh, this is coming out on this day. It's like, oh, just kidding, it's coming out right now. And there was just some weirdness in the live stream format. Now, to be fair to Firaxis, live streams are not what they do, and for a company that does video games and not live streams, this live stream is exceptionally well produced, and I had a great time. However, since a live stream is how they chose to market their product to me and how they chose to give me this information about Tecumseh and the Shawnee civilization, I just want to go over some of the opinions I have about choosing that as a medium for this. I think if I was trying to take the perspective of how to maximize my enjoyment of this, I would have done this in two parts. I would have done this live stream exactly the same guests, the same questions in person with the gameplay, all the rest. I think this live stream was awesome. I think I would have taken this first bit here at the bottom with the interview, and I would have taken a lot of that information and put it in like a 15-minute featurette at the beginning, and the featurette could have been called, collaborating with the Shawnee to create, Tecumseh and the Shawnee civilization, whatever it is. And I could have had a really well edited and well scripted featurette of all the information that covered all the art direction and the music and the narration and all of those important bits that they really wanted me to understand about this collaborative process. And once I had that like really good understanding of what they wanted me to know about this process, then we could hop into this live stream, and you start it here at the beginning. And instead of having to cover that in a live medium, which is just much harder, when you're in a live medium, you are relying on live performances, which aren't always amazing, although in this case I think they broadly were. You're relying on the technology all working and the scene transitions being smooth and everyone understanding like on a moment by moment basis what's meant to be happening and making sure that all goes really well. And I just think some parts of this would have been better in a featurette at the beginning that we could have transitioned into a live stream for the rest of it. But otherwise, 10 out of 10 work. I had a great time. The next best thing comes back in the gameplay, and there was a few small mentions of it, but it really made a difference to me. As they were detailing the units and how they kind of went through the collaborative process of creating some of the units and some of the buildings, I got more and more excited for how good these civs are going to be in this version of Civilization. And when talking about units, they went over how they need to have a unit for each category for every civ, regardless of whether that unit actually existed. For instance, every civ needs to have a knight unit, because knights are just a part of a game. But the Shawnee don't have knights in the traditional way, the European knights with the armor and everything. And so they just take Shawnee representation and the horses and everything else, and these are the knights, right? So the knights don't have European style armor. They are more representative. Even if it's slightly fictionalized, they are more representative of the Shawnee than just putting armor on a model and using the same knight model for everybody else. They talked about this with the buildings as well. Let's see if I can pull up the buildings here. I'll get it. Don't worry. Let's see where they are. They're coming. They talked about this with the buildings here, where some of these buildings, the Shawnee do not have, right? Like every civ needs to have a research center and a library and a bank and a broadcaster, whatever the buildings are. Every civ needs a model for those buildings because they are buildable by everybody, even if they didn't exist in a representative way. So they had to create buildings from scratch. Now they could just use the same bank model or library model or whatever for every single civ, but they went through the process of how they actually took traditional styles of architecture to create, fair representations of these buildings that don't really exist. They're slightly fictionalized so that they can be built by the civ in Civ 7. Now, that's not remarkable on its own. It doesn't affect the gameplay in any way, but it does affect the immersion. And more importantly, to me, it's a good indicator of just how much the developers care about getting this kind of stuff right in their game. And if the developers can put that much care into getting those kinds of things right, it leads me to believe we're going in a really good direction for how good this game is going to be and how much care and time and effort the developers are putting into creating it. Now, a game like Civ 7 is going to be endlessly complicated. It's going to take multiple years to balance with all the DLCs and all the civs and everything like that. There's going to be a lot of kind of post-game stuff that needs to happen to make this game amazing. The same thing happens with every 4X game and every other Civilization game. However, this live stream gave me a lot of confidence that the developers at Firaxis are doing such a good job, and they're really paying attention, and they're really like putting their they're just putting all of their effort into getting this stuff correct and trying to make the best game possible. And I get that this is them promoting their game on their live stream. So, of course, they're going to do everything they can to make you think that. However, I just have this live stream more than the last one, just left me with such a supreme confidence that I'm going to really enjoy this product. And even if there are parts of it I don't love when it releases, I can count on these developers to keep trying to make the best possible game they can make, which is all I could really ask for at this point. I don't have another worst here, so we'll go with another best. The last thing I have to say kind of about this live stream here is there was a small moment, but it meant a lot to me. Now, I don't know if my settings in Civ 6 are just weird and not wired correctly in the game. However, when I'm going to take screenshots for thumbnails or where I'm trying to look over my Civ 6 empires, I frequently get annoyed by how big the unit models are in comparison to everything else. You'll have a settler or a builder or whatever, and it's like 200 feet tall compared to the building, and it's just kind of there and in the way, and it's really annoying to look at. However, in Civ 7, it seems like they've done something really cool with the animations where when this unit is in the city, there's no unit there. You have the unit indicator, but you can't actually see the people, allowing you to appreciate how beautiful your city is. And then as they move the unit out into the field, you can still battle with it. Like all the people become the unit, and then you can still like see it and use it, and it's wonderful. Let's see if we can watch it.
We only show the unit icon, and so you have to click on them and get them to move out.
There we go.
You can see them.
Thank you, Ed Beach. I appreciate that. You can just see how much better that is. It's a small thing, but again, it's these small things that give me confidence that they're paying attention to the details, that they're trying to make the entire Civ 7 experience better for us than the Civ 6 experience was. And so this kind of thing it's a small detail, but it means a lot to me. And that is going to be it, everybody. This was a short live stream with not a lot of gameplay, so hopefully the next best and worst video when we have the exploration era live stream is going to be a little bit longer, a little bit more in depth, but I really enjoyed this. The whole premise of taking me through the process of how a Civ and a leader get created, choosing the Shawnee for that was, I think, a really inspired choice. They could not have picked two better guests to kind of guide me through that collaborative process. I really just had a wonderful time. Let me know in the description below what your best and worst of the live stream were. Are you more excited for Civ or less excited for Civ having watched it? Just know that these were the things that stuck out to me. So if there's something else that you noticed that I didn't, that's kind of the whole point. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll do it again. Let's do it again sometime in the Exploration Era live stream. Thank you so much.